Let me take you back to the Game Awards last year. The anticipation of the final announcement slot. What could it have been? GTA 6, Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3, Half-Life 3, or at least any other large and established franchise? And what was announced? Well, Highguard was, a free-to-play shooter game. I wish I had recorded the reaction of the chat during the announcement, but quite obviously there was an uproar over the announcement. I'm not a game show presenter or anything, but you'd naturally would think to end one of the most anticipated shows of the year on a high, and it unfortunately did not, and I don't think that helped Highguard even before coming out. Naturally, you'd assume the negative reception would have dampened the overall feeling of a game that is releasing soon, and you'd be right. Pretty much nothing from the developers was said until the game was released. In fact, it was Jeff Keighley himself who had to confirm to the world that the game was still coming out on the 26th of January, although the developers did confirm a live stream when the game was released, so I guess something was said. Whether the silence from the developers was to allow the game to polish on launch or due to a lack of faith in the game remained to be seen, but what I saw during this time and before the game even came out was that most gaming news outlets were more concerned about the silence rather than the anticipation of a game developed by ex-developers of Apex Legends and Titanfall. Now, I'll admit, I'm not really all that into shooters. If anything, I'm practically just a casual with this type of game. I think the last shooter I really put any time into was the finals when it first released, but for some reason I found myself here, going to try out a game that wasn't even launching to people being open-minded about it. I was a little disappointed when it was announced, and so were a lot of people. Many people struggled to see what made the game stand out. I mean, it's just another hero shooter, as if we haven't seen enough of them recently. I mean, games like Counter-Strike, Apex Legends, Battlefield, Siege, and more recent games like Arc Raiders all have something that stand out, which is why they're so popular, and getting people to put these games down to play Highguard for more than like 20 minutes is a big ask, because we all know that the second something is less than ideal, we can just go back to what we was enjoying because there's no loss, especially given that the game is free to play. But with me being so dedicated to wanting to provide a quality review for you guys, I stuck with the game until I just couldn't bring myself to play it anymore. Was it worth it? No, it really wasn't. People were calling it Concord 2.0 before it even came out, and I think it's pretty much on par. I'll break it down further for you guys in case you're really wanting to understand why. But before I continue, just very quickly, please consider subscribing. It would help me out massively. Even if you don't, I still appreciate you checking out my content. So I guess I should really talk about my experience given how much I've monologued at the start of the video. Oh, but just quickly, for some reason, the game requires secure boot and TPM 2.0. Couldn't tell you why, but easy anti-cheat wasn't a good sign either. I know people can disable it very easily, so just keep that in mind. Upon starting the game, you're given a training thing which helps you get used to the basics and introduce some mechanics. I also forgot to mention that I think my one was broken when I launched it. My guy was either having a standoff that I couldn't see, or his gun was just firing of its own will. Once you finish, you go straight into 3v3s, with rank mode becoming available later on. Not sure when, it just says later on. Once you're in the match, you choose your hero, get to reinforcing your walls. Each character has 5, so you have a little bit of flexibility, but also choose wisely. Once that's done, your defensive area opens up and you get to explore the area for a little bit. This time is essentially used to acquire better gear, and you can fight in this time, although I think it works best if your team collectively works together to upgrade your weapons and armor. The gunplay is alright. I did find myself only using like 3 guns just because the rest of them felt a little awkward to use, but that obviously varies based on skill and experience. As mentioned just a moment ago, the guns can be upgraded as you move around the map in between the raid phases. Upgrading weapons has its own attributes such as increased swapping rate, rate of fire, and reload speed. You know, the stuff that justifies upgrading a weapon in the first place. The abilities are kind of weird. They're kind of an emergency option because 95% of the time the actual gunplay is what's most effective. I felt like the charge abilities are useless for the most part. You can have one good moment with them and then that's it. There's no practicality with them, and if there is, it's so minor compared to just using your guns. Oh, and don't even get me started on the axe. There's literally no reason to use it outside of getting the little crystal things. It does very little damage. The range is good, but you'll get a dozen bullets in you before you can even get a kill. You can also throw it, but having to charge out makes it redundant because you'll be dead before you can even throw it. The characters are okay, they're diverse, but it feels so lackluster. Once you figure out which characters are overall more effective, there's no reason to really play with any of the other ones. It feels like you're locking yourself into either playing more aggressively or more defensively the second you make that choice. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but that's what makes the experience so disengaging. If you're wanting to play aggressively and you're on the back foot, then you're fighting an uphill battle. Now, don't get me wrong, I think some of the abilities themselves can be quite cool, but the way it's blended into the gameplay feels wrong. You barely get to use them when the game felt like it was wanting it to be one of the main focal points of the game. Customization, customization, customization. If only there was something I could really show. There isn't much, it's just a case of upgrading weapons and swapping stuff around during the match. And of course, we love them as always, microtransactions. I mean, it's a free game, there had to be some. I wouldn't recommend buying anything, I don't think it'll be lasting too long, so save your money for something else. The pacing of the fights largely revolves around you and your team's playstyle. Are you more aggressive or are you more defensively attuned? Regardless, the game pushes for aggression, with the sword-bearing team being urged to push to attack, which in turn forces the opposing team to either be more aggressive or sit and defend their base before the raid attack begins. I'll be honest, it's not a difficult game to pick up, it's just tedious and boring, and if you're playing solo, then you might as well not even play. Communication and teamwork is essential to even having a chance in this game, and if you're wanting to try it out on your own, then you probably shouldn't. I know that sounds harsh, but I really can't say much else about it. Given how early I've got this review out, I can't compare the experience between ranked and I guess casual gameplay, but I mean it should come naturally that as you progress up the competitive ladder, it will become more challenging, and in turn, the training area and casual lobbies will be a good place to attune your skills and understand the pacing of the phases. There is a bit of accessibility, but in all honesty, you're not going to be playing this game long enough to really think about changing stuff out. You probably play one match and then call it a day. The environmental design is okay. I think there are a few times where it doesn't really complement anything the game works towards. The magic of these places feels out of sort with the combat and vice versa. The destructible environments are nothing special. I thought if they could have been factored into the gameplay experience, then it could have been quite cool, but it's largely just aesthetic. If anything, it actually hinders the overall feel unless it's where you're assaulting the base. The audio design was fine, like that was the only part I was impartial to. I felt like it was alright for hearing footsteps, but then so many other parts were unbalanced, it just felt rough. The music was good, or at least the music in the queue was. That was quite cool. Oh, and if you wanted to get out of the queue, the escape button wouldn't work, so you had to Alt F4 to get out. I found no other way. The performance isn't much better, I'm afraid. It's not due to hardware limitations, but I don't think it was well optimized. There were several instances where the game was stuttering, even when I was standing still or just taking a single step to readjust. I'll be honest, the game doesn't really do anything well. It does a few things okay, the gunplay largely being the most noteworthy thing here, but outside of that, I just don't really see what else I can say. The mounts were the only thing that kept the game from making me fall asleep partway through matches. Does that count as a compliment? Now what if I told you that I also have some critiques? I think 3v3 was not the right move. I think given the scale of the maps and the overall feel, I think it would have been better suited to a 5v5 or even a 6v6 experience. That way it would give much more of an onslaught feel, because in case players leave, the remaining players still have a chance. I was unfortunate to experience both of my teammates disconnecting during a critical moment, which left me to fight on my own. Now, I did manage a crazy 18 kills in this game, but ultimately it did nothing because a 3v1 when the scales are so far out of your reach doesn't really give you a fighting chance. It tries to have magic be at the center of the gameplay experience, but it doesn't execute it well enough, or at least for what I would like and what I think it should be doing. I really don't think it's worth it in all honesty. I tried to take a neutral stance seeing as I don't play these type of games, but considering that every other game it tries to compete with does everything 100 times better, there's no real reason to play it for more than 2 to 3 matches. Unfortunately, it's just going to go down as another hero shooter and extraction shooter that claimed it was changing the game, but in reality it doesn't deliver on any front. I wanted to say that I enjoyed my experience, but I just couldn't. Which is a shame. I know that the developers worked hard to deliver something, but in a genre that's already so saturated and diverse, I don't know how you can do something that will keep people away from these other games when you're not giving them a reason to stay. It's like they wanted you to at least look at the game and then move on, because that's what most people will do. As I'm writing this part, it's at 18% positive reviews on Steam, which I can also imagine is the same across all available platforms. And just like that, you've already made it to the end of the video. Thank you for sticking with me on this one. It's definitely an interesting game. I think if you're already familiar with the genre and want to try it out, then go for it, but you're not really going to enjoy it. And if you're not really sure about trying it out, you're not missing much, so yeah, have fun with that. If you'd like, consider liking the video. I would really appreciate it. Hope you've all had a good day. I hope you've enjoyed seeing me complain about this game, and who knows, maybe I'll see you again soon.